So can we talk about for a minute, we're talking about the abusive, narcissistic, controlling relationships and
Sure.
dependency. Can we talk about for a second like the trauma bond dependency?
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. Go ahead. Hey, throw it out there. You know this one.
One, I'm just going to use a random example that popped into my head. Like if people go through a traumatic experience together, like a car wreck, and like a really bad car wreck, and say it's a mother and a child, or two siblings, or anything like that. And they go through a traumatic experience together, and they have that PTSD. They both went through that together, and now they're dependent upon each other because they feel they have that trauma bond, and they like the kid would be afraid to have an attachment to their parent, you know, and they would be dependent upon each other just to be able, in an unhealthy way, just because of what they went through.
Can I touch on trauma bonding for a second?
Yes, please.
So trauma bonding is when two people go through an experience together, and the intensity of that experience bonds them to one another. I mean, one of the primary reasons that happens is because emotion is one of the things that ties in memory the best. So this is why that all of the memories that we have, unless you have a photographic memory, are usually tied to something relatively emotional. And so the more emotion, the better that you can remember it. When you go through a situation that's highly emotionally charged with another individual, and you're both experiencing high levels of emotion, association gets intensified in that circumstance too. So association is just like if I'm in a place where a high level of intensity occurs and emotion occurs, that place all of a sudden gets seared into my mind as something highly emotional. If people are there, they get seared into my mind as being something that's highly associated and with great deal of emotion. And now if there's trauma, then I'm more than likely in that circumstance to want to try to suppress my feelings, but I'm going to get triggered if I'm suppressing my feelings. If I'm avoiding not wanting to feel, then I'm going to try to suppress. But suppression makes you get triggered more because you're just holding, it's like trying to hold back a mountain of water, and it's just pressing against you constantly, so you get triggered more easily. Well, the person who is in that circumstance with you is also going to be triggered by you. So now you both feel really bonded together because your emotions have seared in your relationship with each other, but you're also triggered by each other. So you likely have a very tight relationship, but also a very volatile relationship as well. So you may fight a lot, you may argue a lot, you may get really upset, but then when you're away from that person, you may be like, I don't feel like I can live without that person. I feel like I need that person next to me. Something's missing. And then you start to feel alone and scared because the person that was there with you during the trauma is not there anymore. And now you feel like, I've got to go back. I've got to get back to them. And you'll hear people say, something just pulls me back to them. It's trauma. Yeah. It's the circumstance. And this can happen in an abuser and abusive relationship too, especially early on when an abuser is just starting to abuse. Because most of the time in those circumstances, it's fairly traumatic for them to abuse because they don't even understand why they're doing it. And then they do it and they're like, why did I do that? I don't understand. What does that mean about me? Am I a terrible person? Why did I do that? And so they're traumatized by their own acting out of something traumatic, and then the other person is traumatized from receiving it.
And them being traumatized by their own acting out of the situation can then lead them to believe that you are the cause of that.
Yes, absolutely. Because a lot of times when you're being triggered by somebody, you tend to think like, I only feel this way when you're around, so you must be the cause of what's doing this. So you've got this complicated experience of where somebody is just seared in to your mind as being something you feel like you need to be next to and you don't know why, but they're also triggering immense pain, hurt, and then in some ways enacting it out.